Hi everyone, welcome to Stardust Astrology and your March horoscope. I am using Vedic sidereal positions and they are different from Western positions, and I don't want to waste time here. You can see this difference on a card I posted on my Facebook page, for which I'm putting the link below. I hope you're doing great because we are having two major influences for March this year. Venus is going retrograde, which happens very rarely, and I explained the effects of this transit in detail in the video, for which I'm also putting the link below. So I won't cover Venus retrograde here. Please go watch that video. And then the second big influence is the solar eclipse, which happens on the 26th of February 2017. And this eclipse actually starts a cycle of 6 months in the house of Aquarius in your chart. You will probably have an introduction to what is going to happen somewhere between February the 26th and March the 10th, but the situation will take 6 months to fully develop. So, let's say that the changes will start this March. You're going to feel this shift in energy and focus in your life, but let's say that you are going to actually feel what I'm now going to talk about until August 2017. So you can use this forecast for a wider period of time. Now, this solar eclipse that is happening is a very powerful one, and it is happening in the sign of Aquarius, sidereal Aquarius, which is Western Pisces, in the nakshatra called Shatabisha. And nakshatras, for those of you who do not know, are the 27 constellations operating behind the zodiac signs, which give us much more precise information about a chart than just using the zodiac signs. And in this planet, at the moment when the eclipse is happening, there are 5 planets, as you can see here in the photo. We have Sun and Moon, who are necessary for every new moon to happen, right? They're happening on the south node of the moon, K2, and together with them we have Neptune and Mercury. So, in case you heard that this eclipse is happening in Pisces, this was told to you by your Western astrologer, probably. And even in Western astrology, if you ask them where actually is this happening, they're gonna tell you that this is the constellation of Aquarius. So this is where we are now. Every solar eclipse brings a new beginning in the house where it falls in your chart. So you need to see which house from your ascendant Aquarius falls in, and which house from your moon Aquarius falls in. From the moon sign, it will show events which may seem fated, like they are happening without you initiating anything there. And they may feel hard to avoid. And from the ascendant, it will show your tendencies to act in the specific area of your life. If an eclipse falls on a planet in your chart, it will have more to do with what that planet signifies and which houses it rules than the house where it falls. People who are going to feel this the most are people with personal planets and points in sidereal Aquarius and Leo. The time of development of a solar eclipse, as I said, is 6 months at least. So this one is going to mark the period until the next couple of eclipses, which are going to happen in August. Now, pay attention to anything that happens on the day of eclipse and on the 2nd of March, since the 2nd of March is the day when Mercury will cross this eclipsed point, and it will bring about news or an event, which is going to give you some insights about what this cycle is going to be. Now, if you take a look at this chart, you can see two dominant aspects here. First, the conjunction of those 5 planets in Shatabishak, meaning Shatabishak energies and archetypes will be highly triggered by this one. And then Mars conjunct Uranus in Revati. Revati is the last nakshatra of them all in the sign of Pisces. And this Mars conjunct Uranus is opposing Jupiter retrograde in Chitra Nakshatra in Virgo constellation. This aspect, this opposition, has maximum strength at the time of this eclipse, and it will add an element of surprise or suddenness to these events. Now, Revati Nakshatra is ruled by Mercury, who is in Shatabishak and involved in this eclipse. So this sudden event or sudden realization or sudden impulse will be motivated by the agenda of this eclipse and the Mercury in this eclipse. Now, to add to all this fuss, Venus is stationing at the time of eclipse, which makes her exceptionally strong. And it will turn retrograde in Pisces on the 4th of February. Another fact that adds potency to this eclipse is the fact that it is happening on the south node K2, but in the nakshatra ruled by Rahu. Simultaneously, Rahu is now in Leo in Maga Nakshatra, and Maga is ruled by Ketu. So these two guys have exchanged nakshatras. Or, let's put it this way, this one guy is very strategically positioned at the moment. Rahu and Ketu are one entity. Remember that? You should never study them separately. Instead, study the axes where they are positioned in your chart. Now, when a solar eclipse happens on the south node, like this one does, it will bring a new beginning, which you will most likely feel indifferent towards. Or even if you feel enthusiastic about it, which can happen because Neptune is also there clouding your perception, you will very soon be disillusioned about the whole thing. When an eclipse happens on the south node, you can start new things and be very successful in whatever you start, but don't expect to derive any pleasure from it. It will feel more like a duty than a wish come true. You may even feel that this new beginning is pulling you away and backwards from the things you really want now, because the things you really want now are described by Rahu in Leo in Maga Nakshatra. So with this one, chances are high that you are after some kind of throne or a unique position in the house of Leo in your chart. But what gets opened now is a possibility to go with the collective somehow, not individualistically. The possibility to deal with common people, to be like everyone else in the house of Aquarius in your chart. And you won't be very thrilled about it, but don't despair. You will get your throne and fame and position in a bit more than 6 months when there is the eclipse in Maga, which will happen on the north node in the sign of Leo, the king in the nakshatra of kings. And this is what actually you desire now and feel pulled away from. Now, since the nodes have exchanged nakshatras, chances are that this Aquarius cycle will actually lead you to your success in Maga, which will be the next cycle that starts. Shatabishak Nakshatra, where this is happening, is very famous for its ability to hide things. It is ruled by the deity Varuna, who is the god of night sky and very similar to the archetype of Neptune, who is conjuncting this eclipse. So it is like they're... No, sorry, I just have to take care of my baby dog for a second. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm sorry for this interruption. Back where I stopped. So, Shatabishak is ruled by Varuna, the god of the night sky, and he is very similar to the archetype of Neptune. And Neptune is together with those 4 planets in this eclipse. So, this to me points that the themes, the Shatabishak themes of veiling, hiding, cloaking are doubled now. Together with this eclipse, there is also Mercury with Ketu, and this combination gives a very scattered mind. Mercury rules analytical mind, which requires focus and concentration, and Ketu if you know the legend of Ketu and Rahu, he's a headless planet, meaning Ketu doesn't think. He has no ability to think. And when these two come together, our analytical abilities and organizational skills gets very screwed up. If you add Moon, which is our mind and feelings and emotions, our perceptory mind, to all of that, we get some issues with perception of things. Let me repeat this. We will all have issues with perception during this eclipse cycle. This describes energy which is scattered, fragmented, overactive, but ineffective or inefficient. Whichever house this is happening in, we're going to have issues with managing things there. We are going to have chaotic situations, possibly with a lot of people involved. We are going to have difficulties understanding why we feel the way we feel, or we are going to mistake the reason for why we feel the way we feel. With Neptune there as well, imagination will be running wild, but it will be hard to put things in practice and to be efficient. This to me looks like, for example, an artist who will start painting a beautiful surreal painting in a technique no one ever used before. And let's say he paints it for 2 days and then starts another one. Then he decides he wants to go sit in a park and do nothing for 2 days. And then he decides he wants to compose instead of paint. And then he starts composing a masterpiece, but in the process decides he wants to join an anti-political cause and goes paints himself blue in the middle of the city square. You know, that that kind of energy. I'm just trying to give you a plastic example of what this chaos seems to me like. So just be aware that wherever this eclipse falls in your chart, your perception will be screwed up. And be cautious. Don't rush into things. You will feel the need to rush into things. You will feel this impulse to rush. But I wouldn't. Your and mine and, you know, the collective perception will gain some clarity and sharpness down the road. But I don't think it is going to happen in March. With all of this eclipse is really going to bring some chaotic energy, and you should start feeling it maybe in the last 2 days of February and the first half of March. It may feel like you're walking through a fog. There could be a lot of unclear communication. A huge red flag with this one is a lack of boundaries. Yes, lack of boundaries. Please take care of your personal boundaries, especially, as I said, in the end of February and first half of March. K2, who is with this eclipse, is a mystical energy. And Neptune is also a mystical energy, but they are not, to me, they are not the same. They're very different to me. I know some astrologers will compare them, but I don't feel they are similar. Ketu makes you feel a lot of stuff in your body, which may be difficult to interpret or explain logically, because remember, Ketu has no head, cannot think logically. But Ketu will not confuse you or pull wool over your eyes. On the contrary, Ketu energy is very blunt and impulsive and doesn't care about consequences or doesn't care what anyone else thinks about it. So something confusing here will be busted, exposed with this eclipse bluntly and suddenly. To support this blunt, sudden energy, Mars, who is much more similar to Ketu than Neptune actually, Mars is running into Uranus and triggering Uranus-Jupiter opposition. So Mars plus Uranus is an extremely rash and impatient energy, which will be augmented by Jupiter because Jupiter expands whatever it touches. Now let's see some of the topics that can surface with this eclipse. There can be, of course, much more than what I will describe here, depending on your natal chart and the dasha and antardasha that you're running, but you will most definitely run into some of these themes. Okay, so the eclipse is going to bring out the energy of Shatabhishek Nakshatra. And every nakshatra has a special power, and the power of Shatabhishek is to heal and support. The desire of this nakshatra is to be firm and not unsteady. A bit different with, but a bit difficult with Moon conjunct Neptune and Ketu and Mercury. But without these influences, the result of the power and the desire of this nakshatra is worlds freed of calamity. And there certainly will be some calamity and chaos at the beginning of this cycle, but you will have this desire to be firm and steady in the area where it happens in your chart, in order to either heal the part of your life or even body, or get rid of adversities and difficulties there. Shatabhishek is strongly associated with mystical or miraculous healers. Its meaning is literally 100 healers. So let's say this falls in your first or sixth house, for example, or it conjuncts first or sixth lord. You may be entering a cycle of dealing and healing an illness. There could be some confusion at the beginning, but hopefully by the end of this cycle you will have your cure. Since Rahu is in Maga, there could even be a desire to heal some ancestral wounds, not visible classical disease, but some kind of DNA screw up or ancestral wound that you're energetically carrying around and which messes with your life. Shatabhishek also means 100 flowers, which could indicate the knowledge of herbs and flower remedies. So any herbal-based treatments are likely to give good results now, but it may take some time, and you may go through some disinformation until you find the proper treatment. For people working with flowers and herbs, this could be the time of new beginnings in their professions and business. What else? Shatabhishek can be very devoted to humanitarian noble causes, and most of the time they don't care about getting any credit, name, or fame for what they do. But since Rahu, who rules Shatabhishek, is in Maga, there could be a hidden desire for recognition here. And this kind of scenario will most likely be seen if this affects your 6th, 10th, or 11th house, let's say, maybe even 7th house. Now, apart from humanitarian groups, Shatabhishek also promotes countercultural movements. It is one of the nakshatras where you can see those mad geniuses or fearless leaders and creators of genres in counterculturalism. So if this triggers your moon, for example, you could be having some super advanced ideas now, which could seem weird to the average population. But with this energy, chances are huge, actually, that you may even get support from even regular population. Ketu will add an element of leadership there. What else? Shatabhishek is also associated with aeronautics. How do you say that? Aviation industry, and photography. So if you're looking for a job in this industry, this could be the time you get it. Although it may fail to fulfill your expectations, And this kind of scenario will most likely be seen if this affects your 1st, 2nd, 6th, 10th, 11th, or even 12th house. Varuna, the deity of this nakshatra, has very strong views on what's right and wrong. So issues that arise in Shatabhishek often have to do with loyalty and commitment. There can be extreme stubbornness around these topics. Now, with confusing energy of Neptune there could be an area of your life where you will find these qualities are lacking, or these qualities have been betrayed and you will absolutely demand them, or they would be demanded of you. Ketu will be very fierce about this, and when I think about it, it can be very typical in love relationships, especially if it affects your seventh or fifth house. Let's say that it affects your third or 11th house, then it can affect your relationships with your siblings and friends. Okay, now to narrow down even the nakshatra, there is something called fixed stars. Fixed stars are singular stars which affect 1 or maybe 2 degrees out of 360 degrees in zodiac. And the one where this eclipse is happening has the potential to fulfill your wishes. So your wishes may come true in the house where this falls, but they may not happen the way you imagined they would happen. And once they happen, you can even feel indifferent towards whatever it is. It can be this feeling of like, now your wish is fulfilled and you're like, oh, what? This is what I've been wishing for all this time? Well, it really isn't much, actually, that kind of energy. And the specific degree where this eclipse is happening suggests that we will be prone to spur to action when we need to, that we will be motivated, to rise to occasion that calls for a sense of urgency or speed. And maybe we will want to put all our energy that we have into one situation. We might feel extra sure that we are going to win this one, and if there is a competition, we will feel a strong urge to crush them there. Now, the problem here can be that we are investing all of our energy too quickly and not really achieving anything of lasting value. It's like we are galloping at full speed, but prematurely. And we are far too sure of our ambitions, and then in the end we are disappointed with results wherever in your chart this falls. And this thing that I said will especially be true for the people whose ascendant or moon is in Aquarius. So let's go sign by sign. If your ascendant or moon is in Aquarius, this is happening in your first house, you will notice that you're in the center of attention now. What I have just said about the degree of the eclipse will most strongly apply to you. And above that, in the next 6 months, there will be a powerful new beginning in life, which begins with chaos. You could feel scattered, you could be bursting with energy, but in the end, prove to be inefficient. So if you're starting a new project, there will be issues with managing things. There will be chaotic situations with possibly a lot of people. As I said, your imagination will be running wild, especially if this triggers your moon. But it will be hard to put things in practice and to be efficient. You may be having difficulties understanding why you feel the way you feel, or you may mistake the reason for why you feel the way you feel. When it happens in your first house, you could feel confused about who you are, because first house is the house of identity, the house of where you're going in life and similar stuff. So you may be confused about these themes. Where am I heading in my life? Who am I? What is this telling me about me? You may have a strong need with solar eclipse in the first house to start something new, but you may also have difficulties knowing what exactly to start, how exactly to do it, And in the first house, you may also want to change something about the way you look. And if that's the case, please wait until the second half of April, at least, for Venus to go direct. Don't change your looks while Venus is retrograde. You'll regret it. Okay, now Let's take Capricorn, ascendant or moon. During the next 6 months, there will be a new beginning either in your family environment or regarding your money. Whatever you start, there could be some difficulties in determining the value of it because the second house rules our values. And, like, for example, how much should you charge for your work? If there are new developments in your family life, it may be that someone is moving out for some weird or unclear reason, as well as someone moving in, someone whose personal life is in chaos and they need help and support. Also, please pay attention to what you're putting in your mouth because the next 6 months have a strong indication for developing an addiction. If you use this energy consciously, you could end an addiction, whether it is addiction to food, alcohol, or cigarettes, even drugs, though I don't think actually drug addicts follow this channel, but anyhow. Okay, now let's see if your ascendant or moon is in Sagittarius, then this falls in your third house. In the next 6 months, there will be some struggles with the things and projects that you put your effort in. The third house also rules courage, and with Neptune and Ketu there and Moon with Mercury, you may be lacking courage to pursue a goal that you desire. Or if you have courage, because the fixed stars indicate you might have it, it may be difficult for you to find the right direction. And this applies also to any entrepreneurial endeavors that you may have. They will go slowly and there will be some unclarity at the beginning. There could also be changes in your team, and there could be issues in communication between you and your team, or you and your friends, or you and your siblings. It may seem to you like they have all lost their mind for some period, This is also the period where you may have a stronger need to go and have fun in bars and casinos and like places to just wander around aimlessly, But even if you think this will bring you satisfaction, it really won't bring you any pleasure in the end. And you may just end up thinking, what was I thinking, with all of this roaming around aimlessly. Okay, if your ascendant or moon sign is Scorpio, this falls in your fourth house. In the next 6 months, you could move house or make some changes in your home. And it is likely that in either case, you will find yourself in a somewhat chaotic environment and you may feel uncertain and emotionally stressed with the whole thing. Like there is no place which is totally safe. There is no place where I can completely relax and be myself. There is no place where there are people who will nurture me and take care of me. You may feel the lack in that area. In the fourth house, there may also be some issues around vehicles, like for example, a car or a boat breaking down. Or if you're buying a new car or boat, it turns out not to be what it seems. Or if you're selling a vehicle, the buyers may drop the offer or start changing their mind and so on, Also, your mother or any other being that you take care of may be going through some problems and need your help. And this could bring disorder into your life. You won't be feeling very happy to take care of others in this period, but you may do it from the sense of duty, If your ascendant or moon is in Libra, in the next 6 months, you could start a new creative project, which may not give you the joy you expected from it. If you're working in entertainment industry or you're an artist, this could be a really inspiring, almost surreal time with a lot of ideas, but simultaneously followed by emotional tension, and maybe the results you get from this won't be so satisfying. If you're in a leadership position, something will be off with your leadership abilities at this time. You may be very inspired to lead a large group of people, or quote unquote do it for the people, but confused on how exactly to do it. Take your time there to develop the right path. Also, be careful with your investments in the next 6 months. You could be seeing a great opportunity where there is no opportunity. So, any playing with stock markets or something like that should be done very carefully. This period is even supportive of developing, let's say, a gambling addiction, or addiction to a video game or something like that. But it is also supportive of ending it if you have it. It's also a great period to fall in love head over heels for someone whom you may idealize to the moon and back and make them into something they're really not. Just bear in mind that whoever you meet now, your perception is screwed. All of our perceptions are screwed at this time. If you have children, this may be a time when they need your support due to some chaos in their lives. Sorry, you may be unwilling to help and feel you really don't care about their problems now because they're imaginary or something like that. But just as their perception is screwed up now, so is yours. So give it some time and just do what your conscience says your duty is there. Another important influence for you guys, apart from this eclipse, is Venus retrograde in your 6th house. Venus rules you. So March is going to be one of those rare periods where you reevaluate your life, how much you're worth, what is your role in relationships, are you happy with how you spend your days, are you happy with your gains, are you happy with your employees, housekeepers, there may be some issues with your pets, you may be reevaluating, are you taking good care of your health, and so on. I made a detailed video on Venus retrograde and you can check it out. I'm putting the link for it in the description box. Okay, if your ascendant or moon is in Virgo, this is happening in your 6th house, and 6th house is the house of Virgo. So in the next 6 months, you could be searching for a cure for some health issue you may have, if you have any. In the beginning, there may be a lot of wrong diagnosis, or the healers you visit will be unable to understand the cause of your issue. Overall, it can be a time when you have to face some obstacles, and increased stress in the 6th house. Also, there could be issues with your pets or subordinates, if you have any being that you control in a way. Some subordinates may be leaving, new people may be coming to work for you. You may have difficulties employing people at the moment, or you may employ someone who turns out to be not such a great employee as you first thought. They may turn out to be disorganized and with poor performance and not really care about the job. And the same goes for the house services that you may use. If you decide to take a loan, be careful, because it may turn out that you haven't understood the terms of contract clearly. And this is a good time to repay your debts, if you have any. Also, if you're going through any kind of litigation process, this can be a very frustrating time, and you may have difficulties with understanding what exactly is going on there, how to take control over the situation. Just have patience and give it some time. Clarity will come with time here. You'll walk out of the fog. Okay, if your ascendant or moon sign is Leo, this falls in your 7th house. And Leo, you are the 2nd most affected sign by this, especially if you have placements in Maga Nakshatra. In the next 6 months, there will be new developments in your 7th house. If you're single, you may meet someone who seems like a serious relationship potential, even like a dream come true, and maybe they even are a dream you once had, but later down the road, you may get bored with them, believe it or not. Seventh house generally denotes those least integrated parts of ourselves, and we tend to project them and live them through other people. And for you, Leo, they have to do with being a part of the crowd and not standing out. You have the need to stand out. So maybe now your partner or potential partner proves to be someone very ordinary who couldn't care less about status, glory, position, and similar, and someone who is maybe even overly emotional, sensitive, even needy or clingy. Or you may behave that way. It all depends on your chart and your tendencies. Now, when it comes to business and contracts, be careful what you're entering into and what you're signing, because you may make some emotionally driven decisions which prove to be the result of your unclear perception down the road. And this can be mitigated to some extent if the people you're dealing with now have to do with NGOs or even some artistic field. Anyhow, you will end up being reluctant to take part in your public life and mix with the crowds, because the crowds will be too chaotic for your taste. But you will probably still end up doing it. Now, please remember, everyone, that there are millions of possible interpretations for this eclipse. For example, I've just told you about Leo. And from Leo, this is happening in the 7th house. But 7th house is the second from the 6th, right? So it may also mean that Leo's employees or housekeepers may have some issues in their families at the moment. Or Leo may decide to give them a raise. Or since 6th house also rules pets, 7th is second from the 6th, Leo's pets may eat something bad now. Or Leo decides to change their pets' diets or something like that. Let's go further. Since the 7th house is third from the 5th, Leo's kids may have some issues with Leo's other kids who are their younger siblings, or with their schoolmates, for example, and so on. So if we take these derived houses, which are called Bhavat Bhavam, we can have endless interpretations for this. Let's go on to Cancer. If your moon or ascendant is in Cancer, this falls in your 8th house. And dear Cancer, this happens in the area of your chart which has to do with your vulnerabilities, insecurities, weaknesses, emotional bonds, emotional control issues. All those could be triggered, and there may be a need to go through some kind of transformation process, which will seem scary and very stressful to you. It may even seem unnecessary to you. There may be sudden events happening that will disturb your peace of mind, an overall feeling of security. This is much more of an emotional house. From the practical point of view, if you have mutual accounts or any kind of other shared resources with a partner, there may be changes there now. And these changes will be hard to define at the beginning, and you will find it hard to agree upon them now. Like questions like, how do we share our resources? How do we distribute mutual funds? And so on. Since the 8th house also rules your partner's primary family, there may be some chaotic happenings there. And you may feel reluctant to participate in those. Maybe in your partner's primary family, there's some victimized people, and your partner has to deal with them now and wants you to deal with them. But you don't want that. You don't want them to disturb your peace and your peace of mind, Since the 8th house also rules chronic diseases, this may be a cycle when you decide to find a cure for a chronic disease, if you have any. And There might be some roaming and misdiagnosis at the beginning, but the situation will become clearer down the road. Some Cancer people may even undergo surgeries at this time. And if this is an elective surgery, like beauty surgery, for example, wait till Venus goes direct. Don't do it in Venus retrograde. If you're into any kind of research, your research may be frustrating at the beginning. Evidence and data may be hard to find, or you may simply feel not very excited about the whole thing. This cycle is good to start therapy, though, or any other kind of counseling. Just don't expect to get results right away because your problem is not very clear to start with, okay? If your ascendant or moon sign is Gemini, this eclipse falls in your 9th house, and it means that in the next 6 months you could start a new course, whether you're learning or teaching. Some Gemini may enroll to postgraduate studies, but they won't be as interesting as they first thought. Some Geminis will publish their books or start working in publishing industry or even media. Some Geminis will find a new guru, but then they might be disappointed with his or her methods. You will be prone to criticizing your gurus and teachers, Gemini. Don't do that. Some married Gemini may have new developments in their marital life. There could be issues there. If you're getting married in this cycle, it may be just for the papers or something that you need legally. It won't bring you much pleasure, you know? But if, for example, you're getting married in order to get a visa for a country where you have always wanted to go, it will be worth it. Some Gemini will travel now, possibly in a group of people, and if this is the case, there may be some organizational issues around this trip, and it proves to be disappointing for you. And since the 9th house is the house of our highest dharma, most Gemini will now undertake some righteous actions which do not necessarily fulfill them, but they are, the right thing to do. Okay? And you need to do them. If your ascendant or moon sign is Taurus, then this falls in your 10th house. And many Taurus people are going to face changes in their workplace now, either by changing the company that you work for, or they send you to work to another city or even another country, or there are some changes within your workplace. Like, for example, you get a new boss. At the beginning, they may seem chaotic, and there is even a chance that you are given a leadership role now. But then it proves to be disappointing because although you have the position with K2, you can't really achieve what you feel you want with this position. It turns out to be just a position. You can't do something meaningful with it. If this is not the case, you will perceive that the people you work with are very disorganized and careless and chaotic. Your responsibilities may seem boring and useless to you now. Okay, another important influence for you guys is Venus retrograde in your 11th house, because Venus rules you, and Venus retrograde is a very rare phenomenon. So March is going to be one of those rare periods when you reevaluate your life, how much you're worth, what's your role in relationships. In the 11th house, are you happy with your friends and social groups? Are you happy with your gains? What about your long-term goals? How about your wishes? Are they fulfilled? And so on. But I made a detailed video on Venus retrograde, and you can check it out. The link is in the description box below. Okay, if your ascendant or moon sign is in Aries, then this falls in your 11th house. In the next 6 months, you may feel frustrated with your friendships or business circles. You may decide to make some changes there. Your friends may prove to be irresponsible or unreliable when you need them, or just plain boring. You may join a large organization It can be a business organization or some other group, or it can be a humanitarian cause. And you may rush in your Aryan way to give your best there, only to find out that your efforts go in vain. Also, any large events that you may attend will be dissatisfying. In general, this could be the period where you become dissatisfied with your long-term goals and decide to change something there, but then you feel confused about what exactly to do and which direction to take. Um, it may even seem at some point to you like, oh my gosh, I have no more wishes, because Ketu in the 11th may give you that feeling for some time. Another possibility is that an important wish does come true, but then it doesn't bring you joy that you expected. And you may wonder, why is this so? Even in the 11th, your gains may increase, your position may increase, but you won't be able to enjoy them properly in the next 6 months. That's the issue with K2. Okay, and finally, Pisces. If your ascendant or moon is in Pisces, then this is falling in your 12th house. And in the 12th house, this will mark the beginning of an ending chapter in your life. And this is a time when you may actually find it very easy to let go and close whichever chapter needs to be closed. 12th house, the essence of 12th house is that it describes where and how we give away our energy, be it through working, talking, investing our time, money, emotions, material possessions, whatever, money and material possessions are just a very dense form of energy, nothing else. So you invest any of those without getting anything in return. That's the 12th house. So at this time, you may decide to give away things that you don't need anymore, or you may invest your time and work into charity. You really won't be expecting anything in return. One downside of this eclipse can be that you may have an unexpected large expense that you may feel was a waste of money, like, oh, I really didn't need this, or why did I have to pay for this now? But hey, okay. This is an excellent time to let go of an addiction if you have any, especially if there is a planet in your 12th house in Aquarius, and if this planet is pointing to an addiction and then eclipse triggers it. And transits through 12th house generally show endings of a cycle and hibernation period before the next cycle. So this is the time where you may feel tired and exhausted and need more rest and rejuvenation. This is the time where we usually isolate ourselves from everyday work and routine. So you isolate yourself from the 6th house stuff. Maybe by traveling to a distant place, or just by withdrawing and spending some quality time alone. Your subconscious mind and your imagination may be running wild in this period. So even in isolation, you may feel psychically drained. Even sleep can be exhausting sometimes if psyche is overloaded and your dreams go crazy. You wake up tired. If you go traveling now to some faraway place, or you go visit an ashram for some time, in the end, this may prove to be for you, just another experience, nothing special. It may be a place you wanted to visit for quite some time, but in the end, you may feel indifferent about it. It is a good time for meditation and spiritual work, actually. Also maybe a good time for research or some work that you do behind the scenes. But if you start any behind the scenes project, it may start chaotically, and then get clearer down the road. Anyhow, when the time comes to rest and spend some time alone, you better do it, or otherwise your subconscious mind can make you sick, so that you have to rest and be alone anyhow. This is what we tend to do, you know? We feel tired. We feel the need to be alone and to rest, but then your rational mind will say, but no, I have to do this, I have to do that. What if I don't do this? What if it will be the end of the world if I don't do this, don't do that. When your 12th house is calling, you go to your 6th house. Well, what is then your subconscious mind going to do is going to make you sick. So you have to rest. You have to be in isolation. This is, among other things, one of the reasons why the 12th house rules hospitals. You know, it rules long vacations, but it also rules hospitals. So you can choose what kind of time out you want to have, whether it is a vacation or hospital, right? If you use this consciously. Oof, okay, guys. This is it about March, and generally not March, but the next 6 months. It's just that it starts harsh it starts in a big way in March. Also, don't forget Venus retrograde cycle. These are the two major influences for March. Thank you for listening. If you liked this, please click the like button or subscribe or share this with your friends who you may think will find this useful. You can write to me if you want to know about your chart in more detail, and you can follow the Stardust Astrology page on Facebook. And that's about it. Oh, feel free to comment, please, below the video about what March brought to you. Thank you for listening once again. Bye bye. Have a great month.